Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today I want to talk to you about mental triggers. Here in Mental Game Mechanics, our whole objective is to get you to shift your mindsets to just get you to do and achieve more. And in today's video, I think I want to just tell you a quick experience I had a few years ago when I was training for competition. So it was getting into the beginning of the shooting season. As you some of you may know, I'm a competitive shotgun shooter. It's my passion that I just absolutely love, and part of that shotgun shooting is being able to stay consistent on a regular basis. And so the season was, just about to start kicking off. And so I was picking up the gun, starting to train, starting to shoot, and really just trying to develop out that consistency on a regular basis. If you've ever been golfing, right, you could go from one hole to the next, and your swing might be completely different just because you fail to execute on that swing each time, right? Obviously, with time and experience, that gets better, especially as a golfer. But same thing with shooting, right? It's the exact same concept, right? You want to be consistent on a regular basis to keep your scores high or low if you're in golf. But anyway, so that's what I was doing. Obviously, the consistency it leads to winning and being able to execute and shoot better, higher, more consistent scores over a long period of time. And so that was the goal that I was kind of working for, is developing out that consistency. And at this point, I was kind of frustrated that I wasn't more consistent. I'd been shooting for, I don't know, 5-6 years at this point, and I'm 15, 16 years old at this time, maybe 17. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember, this whole season, right? That I went into the season feeling kind of frustrated that I wasn't as consistent as I needed or wanted to be, and so I started really just kind of trying to practice that consistency of things, and trying to figure out how it all worked. And I started picking up books. One of the first books that I ever really dove into as far as mental training. And again, I'm 14 years old. At 14, I started this book when I was 14, and I've picked up other ones since then. Obviously, I've been doing this for 10 plus years now, for 14, 15 years now. And so, I started picking up these books and trying to figure out, how do you create consistency on a regular basis as an athlete. And one of the key things that I learned in this venture of trying to figure this out and training and stuff like that is that when you get into a shot, or when you get into whatever you might be doing, golfing, shooting, maybe it's writing an email, for your marketing, or maybe it's doing a sales presentation, or a coaching call, or whatever it is that you might be doing. It's easy to get your mind wrapped around all of the things that need to happen in order to make that thing a success, right? It's easy to get into this, I got to do that, and I got to do that, and I got to do this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and all these things need to happen in order for this to be successful. And what that really does is it creates chaos and overwhelm inside your mind, because you have to think about all of these things. Imagine if you've ever been shooting, right? Imagine if and typically I see this with a lot of beginning shooters, is they pick up the gun, and they're thinking about where to put their hand, and where to put this hand, and where to put their head on the gun, and they're doing all these different things, and thinking, okay, there's the target, and then when do I pull the trigger, and then where do I put my feet, and they're thinking about all these things, and they can't do anything because they're trying to consciously, in their mindset, do all of these things at one time, and the conscious mind can't process all that data at once. And so for me at this point, I was really struggling with quieting my mind, right? I was trying to think about the strategy of the target. I was good with the gun. I felt smooth, and there's a lot of things that kind of went away that I didn't have to think about, but it turned into, now, how do I hit that target? Not so much how do I hold the gun. I'd figure that part out, but it was the strategy or the tactics of how to hit each target and do it on a regular basis, and trying to repeat that. And so my mind was racing at 100 miles an hour on every single shot. and it just prevented me from being consistent and staying regular on, from my first shot to my second shot, and hitting the first one and then hitting the second one. I struggled with that first to second to third to fourth step was just getting really hard for me. And so in my study, one of the things that I picked up was, at first was that the conscious mind, the mindset that we have, we can only really do one thing or picture one thing or focus on one thing at a time. We can't focus on holding the gun, thinking about the target, moving our feet, and doing this. Or, with golf, you can't focus on how you hold the club and keeping your elbow straight and turning with your hips, and then, keeping your arm. You can't think about all those things at one time. It's just your brain is not able to compute all of that at once. That's why multitasking doesn't necessarily work, right? And so, in this process, I learned that you have to really quiet the mind and focus on just one simple thing. And I figured out that if you just focus on one thing at a time, it quiets everything down and it helps you build out a system or a process that you can just follow, right? And so I started playing with how this might work and how this concept of focusing on just one thing at a time really works. And what I learned was that when you set up some type of mental trigger that tells you that, boom, here's the point of quietness and silence and just focus on the one thing that I'm focusing on. Could be a word, could be a picture, could be an object, could be, whatever, right? It's focusing on just one simple thing that allows everything else that you've learned to come out, to flourish, right? I teach that, the mindset is that focus, and that one thing, the conscious mind is actively focused on that one thing. What that does is when we do that, it allows our mechanics, the things that we've learned, the skill sets that we've built, it allows that to come out. It allows our talent to really show, right? Because we're not trying to think about all the steps that have to happen. We're just allowing what we've learned subconsciously to start executing, okay? And so making that shift from trying to think about all the different things and actively focusing on it to just quieting the mind and letting what we know how to do, the things that we've already learned, come out and do whatever that process might be, whether it's a golf swing, whether it's a shooting swing, whether it's a basketball shot, or maybe it's a coaching call, maybe it's a one-on-one interview, maybe it's a podcast. It could be a million different things. But the objective here is that you're not focusing on all of the steps that have to take place. You're focusing on just the one thing that's going to allow you to execute on a consistent basis. And that's the power of the mental trigger, is trigger into thought, into simplicity and trust into yourself. And I have a system that I've developed for that, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But I tried to make it a habit. Okay, so at this point, I learned, oh wow, the power of focusing on just one thing and having a system to generate that consistent, regular system, right? And so I started building this out, and I set up triggers for myself, which for me was I stepped into the shooting cage, step in, open the gun, think about what I'm going to do, go through all my checklists and stuff like that. And then as soon as I put shotgun shells into the barrels, that was my trigger. That was my point of initiation, that I'm going to, boom, okay, here we go. Off I go, right? And that tells me to quiet the mind and just focus on the one thing and just trust myself to go. And so I started doing that, and I quickly learned that you can't just say, here's my trigger and here's my thought. You have to really cultivate it. You have to really develop it. You have to really work on it, right? There's a reason that athletes spend years of their lives training. There's a reason that anytime you're learning something, it takes time and skill and talent to do it, right? It takes effort. There's a book, I can't think of the name, I think Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And it's called, he in that book, he talks about the principle of 10,000 hours, meaning you have to do 10,000 hours of whatever it is that you're doing before you truly have proficiency or an expert level skill. Excuse me. And so that 10,000 hours, right? Athletes are putting in that plus some, right? I mean, it's 10,000 hours is a lot of time. And so when we're talking about mental triggers, mental consistency, it's not something that's just going to happen overnight. It's something that you build, something that you cultivate, something that becomes customized to you within some certain frameworks. And I can show you what those are. It's at another point, but the thing is, you can't just expect to win because all of a sudden you've got an abundance mindset, or you've got a growth mindset, or a focused mindset, or you can't just say I'm gonna be this, and all of a sudden you're that. You're gonna experience struggle. You're gonna experience frustration. You're gonna experience inconsistency, even though you're trying to build that consistency. And that's just because you have to learn how that works. You have to learn that process. And I'm to the point now that I do it everywhere. Right, I get into this video and I go boom, trigger, bam, and I'm ready to go. Right, I get into a shooting cage. Right, I got my triggers, got my setup, my thought process, bam, ready to go. It's weird, but cold showers. If you've ever read about the Wim Hof method, you take a cold shower. It's very hard to just jump into cold water. It's kind of like, oh crap, this is gonna suck, And so I use mental triggers for that, to just calm everything down, get in the water and breathe. It's not that hard. It's simple, but it's simply because I have the mental triggers to overcome the fear of doing whatever it is that I'm about to do. And that's what I want to empower you with is, how do you set up triggers and stuff like that? And what does that mean? And it's going to be different for you and me. We're all different, but the principle is mental. Have a mental trigger that allows you to think about a certain thing, what you're about to do, and then trust in yourself. Okay, I call it trigger, thought, tactic, trust. Okay, set up a trigger that helps you have a thought process that simplifies and calms your mind, that helps you focus on the tactic, that helps you trust in your ability to execute whatever it is that you're doing. And so if you do those things, not only are you gonna have that mental system that you'll be able to rely on, you'll be able to do so much more, because you'll be able to eliminate some of those doubts, or some of those fears, or those angst, those things that are causing stress. Right, you want to shoot a video, but you don't know. Oh, man, what are people going to think? Or what if nobody watches it? Or oh man, all those different things. And if you just stop and focus and set up have a trigger that says, we're just going to do this. Whatever comes out is what comes out, and you're going to build a skill over time. It doesn't matter if it's shooting a video or shooting a target. Okay, across the board, if you can quiet your mind and allow what you have inside your head to come out, you're going to achieve more, do more, and be more in all different facets of your life. And so I leave you with that, and hope that helps you shift your mindset just a little bit. Helps you to have something to rely on, a system that you can use to really break through to your next objective, or next project, or next thing that you want to do, whatever your next result is. I hope this helps you think through how to have that confidence and that focus to execute and get more done. So I leave you with that, and I hope you have an incredible day. I will talk to you at another time.